Now, before we dig into the modes for the DJI Mic Mini, I just want to jump in and have a quick conversation about getting good audio with this little wireless system. So the goal with any audio that you're recording is that you're recording it loud enough that you get a clean signal, but not too loud where it's going above what the camera can handle and it clips. So clipping is when the audio gets too loud and you start hearing it get distorted. Now, with the DJI Mic Mini, these auto adjust the levels. So it's gonna ride your volume up and down slightly as you talk with this microphone. However, if you all of a sudden talk loud like this, well, it's gonna clip. It's gonna get way too high and it's gonna start sounding awful. Now here's a sample of what the audio sounds like when it's being recorded too loud and it's clipping. It just doesn't sound good at all. So when I'm talking about the different modes and we're talking about how to set up the microphones, the goal is to get your audio high enough that it has a clean signal, because if it gets too low, well, you're not gonna be able to hear your audio. And then if you try to boost it in your editing software, you're gonna introduce a lot of noise into that audio and you're gonna hear like in the background. So the idea is to record it high enough that it sounds clean, but not too high that it clips. And to go a little bit more technical with it, you wanna record your audio anywhere from -6 to -12 decibels. And when you see a camera, this is typically that range when the green turns to orange. So you wanna get right up into the orange levels, because usually on your audio meters, you'll have green, yellow or orange, and then red. And red is in that danger zone where it's being recorded too high. Yellow, orange is where it's getting close to too high. And then green is the rest of the audio meter. So ideally you want the green to be touching that orange or yellow, and that's in the range of -6 decibels. So ideally, whenever I'm recording audio, I'm trying to record between -6 and -12 decibels. That way it's not too loud that it's gonna be clipping, and it's also not too quiet that it's gonna cause issues later on when I'm actually trying to edit the audio. Now, if you're just taking your audio straight from your camera and bringing it right into, say, social media or anything like that, you'll want to record it around that -6, even closer to 0 range, but you just want to make sure that you're not recording too high that it's starting to clip. This way your audio is always going to sound clean in the videos that you're creating. Now let's talk about the different modes that you have access to with the Mic Mini. So there's 3 different modes that you can record your audio in. There's mono with a safety track, or you can record in stereo mode. So it all depends on how you plan to use your Mic Mini. If you're just using a single microphone, then you're gonna wanna make sure that you're recording this audio on both the left and right channel. And so what you'll do is use the mono mode. So with any camera that you're recording, there's always gonna be a left and right stereo pair. And when you're in mono mode, it's recording the exact same thing to both the left and the right. And so if you're just using a single microphone, just one mic, you're recording yourself, that's all you're doing, then you're gonna wanna put it in the mono mode, and you're gonna get the exact same recording on both the left and right channel. Now, if you want to have a safety channel, so say you're recording in a situation where your voice might fluctuate, you might be yelling at times, you might be quieter at times, or you're in like a super loud, noisy environment, and you wanna make sure that your audio is not recorded too high, then you could record with what's called mono with a safety track. And so mono with a safety track is basically the same thing as mono, except for the Mic Mini is gonna split your recording between the left and right channel. One side is gonna be recorded at the level that you have set, and the other side is gonna be recorded 6 decibels less. So it's gonna be a little bit quieter. So if you do have audio that gets really high and then goes low, well, there's no chance of your audio clipping. Now, the third mode that you have access to is stereo recording. And you're gonna use this if you are using 2 Mic Minis. So if you have 2 and you're miking up 2 different people, well, then you'll want to put it in the stereo mode if you want to have complete control of your audio later. This way, each microphone is going to be on a separate track, so that when you get into your editing software, you can go through and adjust them independently and they're not mixed together. And so that way, if one person is talking much louder than the other person, you can balance them out in your editing software because you do have 2 independent tracks. However, you could also use mono and mono with a safety when you're using 2 microphones as well. The only difference is that it's gonna blend both microphones together into one track and then put it on both the left and right channel. So in the mono mode, it's gonna blend both microphones, put them on both the left, the right, and it's gonna be completely identical. And then mono with a safety, it's the same thing except for that second track is just 6 decibels less. So both the microphones are still mixed together. You have no control of them independently. However, you have the one track that is full volume and then one that's at 6 decibels less to help protect those moments when things get too loud. Now there's a couple ways to actually change the mode that you're in. So you could do it on the device themselves, or you can do it in the DJI Mimo app. Now to switch the mode, you have to use the receiver. And how you switch it is you just double click the pair button. And when you double click it, you're gonna see the light on the front go from green to cyan. Green means that it's in mono mode and cyan means it's in stereo mode. Now one thing you'll notice, if you don't have the receiver plugged into a phone or you don't have a cable plugged in for your camera, this front light is gonna be blinking. It means that it's not connected to a camera. So as soon as I plug in my audio cable, it'll turn a solid green or solid cyan depending on what mode I'm in. And the same thing if I was gonna plug it into my phone. Now to switch the mode via the Mimo app, you just plug in the receiver. It's gonna pull up DJI Mimo, go to your settings, and you'll see that there'll be an option for audio channel. And you switch between mono and stereo. Now, one thing to note, you cannot turn on the safety track without pairing it to your phone first. So when you're in your DJI Mimo app, you click mono, now the option for safety track is gonna be available and you just toggle it and now your safety track is gonna be turned on. So the only way that you can actually turn on the safety track is by going into the Mimo app, making sure it's in mono and then turning on the safety track. And when you unplug it from your phone, it's gonna keep the safety track enabled. Now, I'll double click this, put it back into stereo mode, double click it again, put it back into mono mode, plug it back into my Mimo app, and you'll see that even though I changed the mode physically on the device and go back into here, the safety track is still enabled. So the safety track will stay enabled as long as you keep it enabled on the phone. You have to go in here and disable it to turn it off on the actual receiver itself. So if you don't always want to have that mono safe with a safety track, you need to make sure you turn it off in the Mimo app before you disconnect it. So let me give you a quick demonstration of how this works. And so you can see this in real time. So I have both microphones paired right now, and I'm actually recording myself on my phone so you can see my office. Now, both these microphones are right here, so you're gonna be hearing audio from both of them. However, I'm gonna stick one over here. And so now I have one that's right close to my mouth, and I have the other over there by that camera. However, right now I'm in the mono mode. And so you're gonna be getting the same signal on both the left and right channel. And you can see this in the upper left-hand corner here. You'll see that both sides, both the left and right channel are getting equal, even though the two microphones are in completely different spots in the room. Now let me switch this up. I'm gonna double click the pairing button. I switched it over to stereo mode, and now this is what the audio sounds like without touching anything. So I'm gonna spin around here, and now you're gonna see the other side of the room, and I'm gonna talk directly to this microphone that I have in my hand. Now, you'll hear out of one channel, you're getting clean audio because it's right here in my hand and I'm talking directly to it. The other side, you're not gonna be hearing good audio. It's probably gonna be super echoey. It's on the other side of the room, and it's gonna be not picking up my voice very well. And so this is how you're able to record two different tracks independently, the left and the right channel. And so I'll swing back here, switch it back to mono mode, and now you're getting the same audio on both the left and right channels. So you're getting the clean audio from this microphone, and then you're also gonna get the audio from that microphone, and they're gonna be blended together. So it just depends on what you're planning to shoot. If you have two people, you're probably gonna wanna use the stereo mode, unless you're editing quickly and you don't wanna have to deal with editing each channel independently. You just have this flexibility to be able to split your audio and be able to have full control, or mix it all together and just have a quick mono track, but then you could just post right away and not really have to deal with editing. Now I'm gonna pause the video for 1 second, and if you're someone who's enjoying this video and you wanna learn how to make better videos and grow your YouTube following and all of that, then hit the subscribe button. On this channel, I teach gear, I teach filmmaking techniques, and I also teach how to do all of this on YouTube so that you can build your following, grow your audience, and become a full-time content creator. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and like this video. All right, let's jump back into the Mic Mini. Now, one of the cool ways to use the DJI Mic Mini is to connect it directly to your computer. And I've actually been doing this a lot for recording my voiceover work. I'll just connect the receiver directly into my computer, and then I could talk into my transmitter just like this in front of my computer, and I could create some good sounding voiceovers. Very simple way to be able to do voiceover work for your videos. And how you set this up is you're gonna hook your receiver into your computer using a USB-C. And you'll wanna make sure that your transmitter is connected to your receiver. Now also, you'll wanna make sure that the phone connector is not still attached to the receiver. If you have this plugged in, it's not gonna work. However, now that I've plugged in the receiver, when you go on the computer, you'll see that there's an option for DJI Mic Mini. And now, when I talk into the Mic Mini, you'll see that audio levels are coming through on the computer. And I've just brought down my audio meters down to -12 decibels, and you'll see that it's affecting the audio that's coming into the computer. So now it's gonna be super low on the input level. And now I've gone to +12 decibels, and you'll see that it's recording, it's coming into the computer way too hot, so it's not gonna sound very good. So I brought it back to 0, and you can see that the audio levels are coming in close to the top, but not all the way to the top. So right in that -6 dB range. Now, obviously, when we're looking on the computer, there's no decibel range, and you're just looking at the audio meters based on what the computer has here, the input level. However, you could use this as a guide. You want to get it close to that top, but you don't want to have it peaking, so you don't want it hitting the top, and also you don't want it being recorded too low. Now, the key is whenever you're setting up any audio device, whether it's the computer, the camera, your phone, whatever you're using, you want to make sure that you put the microphone in the placement of where you're going to be using the microphone. So right now I'm hand holding it like this. And you can see that the audio levels on the computer where they're hitting. If I was setting this up and I have the microphone set up like this, but then when I actually go to start use it, I put the microphone like down over here, well, that's not a true way to set up the microphone. You want to have it in the place that you're going to use it, and then go through and set up your levels so that it's recording at the proper volume so that you get the best audio. Now, one of the really cool things with connecting it to your computer is it can be your input source. So if you are doing voiceover work, well, you could connect it directly to your computer, and then you could do a voiceover directly in Final Cut Pro. That's the editing software that I use. And I'm sure with the editing software that you use, if you don't use Final Cut Pro, there is an audio recording option. Now, something else I've been using it for a lot is Zoom calls. Also, I'll plug this in, have it set up. Because these things last so long, 11.5 hours for these transmitters, I know I could use it for all the stuff I do on my computers. So I keep them on during my Zoom calls and just leave the microphones on. And this way I could hook it to my shirt, or I just put it right in front of me on my computer, just somewhere down here. Then I know I always have good audio when I'm doing those kind of calls. And that way I don't have to set up like a bunch of cables and some bigger microphones. I can do this all wirelessly with a little tiny DJI Mic Mini. All right, let me show you how to set this up with your camera. So I have a screen recording going right here, so I can show you exactly how I would set this up to get the best audio with your DJI Mic Mini. So normally when I use this, I'm gonna put it right in the cold shoe mount on top of the camera, and then I'm gonna hook in the audio cable. Plug it in to both the output on the Mic Mini receiver and the input on the camera. And then I'll hook up the microphone, make sure they're all connected, make sure all the lights are showing me exactly that the transmitter is hooked to the receiver. And now you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, I'm getting audio levels. Now, I've previously set this up to work with these audio levels. So when you first plug in your Mic Mini, you might be getting something different here. Now I'm gonna go into my menu and bring up my audio recording. So on your camera, you can adjust the volume of how loud you wanna record your audio. Right now, mine is at 7. So if I bring this down to 1, you can see that it's a very low recording. However, I could go up to +12 dB on the Mic Mini, and now I'm actually getting a pretty decent recording. It's up just above -12, and that's in the range that I want to be, between -12 and -6 dB. And so if I was to put my camera at 1 and the Mic Mini at +12, and I'm talking at this level with the Mic Mini right here, I'm going to be getting the proper audio for the scene that I'm filming. Now let's bring this back to 0. So if I'm back at 0 on the Mic Mini, you'll see that I'm recording too low. The audio meters are hitting at around -20. This is going to be too low of a recording, and it's not going to sound good because it's going to be super low, and I'm going to have to boost it in my editing software, which is going to increase the chances of it not sounding as good. So what I could do in this situation is bring up the internal volume until the audio hits between -12 and -6 decibels. And so now as I'm talking, you can see that it's hitting right in the right range when I'm recording at 9, 10 in camera and 0 on the Mic Mini. Now, if I was to go to -12 on the Mic Mini, then you'll see that it's still recording too low. So I'll bring up the camera even more, boost it, until it's hitting in that -6 to -12 range. And so now the camera's at 21, the Mic Mini's at -12 dBs. Now I'm getting in the good range. Now my suggestion to you is start at 0 dB, and then set the camera to where it sounds best. So if I'm at 0 dB, go back down to 9, it's gonna be at the proper level. Now watch, as I bring this up to say -29, you can see that the audio is constantly hitting above 0 and it's just red. This is where you're gonna have that clipping, and it's not gonna sound good. It's gonna sound completely awful. So you wanna have it in that range between -12, -6 dB, and then you'll be set up ready to get good audio. So always start with 0 and then adjust your camera. And if you're having issues getting it in the right range with it at 0, that's when you go in and start tweaking at -6 or -12 or +6 or +12. So first start with the Mic Mini at 0, adjust your camera, and then you could go through and change it even more with the Mic Mini if you aren't getting the perfect audio that you need in your camera.